Hi, and welcome to the last of our four-part series of 5 questions with 4 candidates. I'm Jonathan Copsey with Appin Newspapers and the Milton Herald, here with incumbent candidate for District 2, Julie Zonner-Bailey. Thank you for joining us, Julie.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's great to be together.
And now we've got 5 questions that we will ask you, and we hope that this will be awesome.
Awesome.
All right.
I look forward to it.
First question.
Yes.
Although Milton's population is about 30,000 people, it covers a very large area. Do you feel that the current level of police presence in Milton is adequate? Why or why not?
In our most recent budget cycle, we've actually added additional officers to provide additional coverage because of the increased population as well as the increased call volume. We've done a data analysis of the calls coming into our 911 center, and it was evident to us that we needed to have some additional police coverage. As a result, we have added staff. We've, of course, added all of what goes with that staff, cars and all the benefits, et cetera, that come with that, and that's a fully budgeted item within the 2012 budget. So we are providing additional police coverage. We continue to provide the best public safety division, I believe, in the state of Georgia. We support our staff, we support our citizens, and we support them with the public safety that is necessary to keep everybody safe. I'm a huge believer that we need to have adequate coverage, that we need to have adequate fire coverage, we need to have the proper equipment, and we have those things, and we continue to fund those with each budget, but always being very mindful that we also don't want to have additional costs if indeed we don't need additional resources. So I believe that with the 30,000 newest census population figures, that we do have adequate police and adequate fire and police. We'll continue to analyze that each year and within each budget cycle, and we'll continue to make sure that we have the vehicles as well as the fire vehicles to provide the services that are needed. So I think we're in a great position. We have a fabulous public safety department, and we'll continue to fund them appropriately and sufficiently. Thank you for that question.
All right. Is preserving the integrity of Milton's rural residential character sustainable without commercial growth? Why or why not?
The rural character of Milton is what has defined this community for decades. We've been a city for 5 years, but we've been a community for many more years than that. And our mission and vision within the city of Milton is what defines this place, and it's our citizens that have defined it. And we define it as a rural environment. Of course, we have urban areas along Highway 9, increasingly in Crabapple, potentially along 140. But whether you live in one of those more urban areas or if you live more on the internal portions of Milton, the rural character is important to everybody. It's that rural character that has allowed our home values to increase and to stay and to hold value more so than almost any other community in the region. And so when you talk about sustainability, I would say indeed it's sustainable. We've worked very hard for a long time. I've personally dedicated more than 2 decades to this community. And the sustainability issue, when you look at 86% of our community being residential and 14% commercial, that results in what's going to be a huge windfall for us next summer. The latest census dollars actually will bring a minimum of an increase of $3.5 million through the local option sales taxes. So the fact that we are primarily residential is actually going to boost our financial position, and we are in an excellent financial position today. In the closing of our most recent budget, and as we've moved into our budget cycle of 2012, we are in very strong financial shape. We have a $7.8 million fund balance, and that 7.8 going into the 2012 year is before this minimum of 3.5 million that we'll start to take in at a minimum annually. So if you go out 10 years, that's going to be an additional $35 million that will be directly tied to increased population. And so do I believe that our current rural environment is sustainable with the current balance of roughly 86 to 14%, 86% residential and 14% commercial? Absolutely. It is sustainable. The financials reflect that it's sustainable. Will we have growth? We will have growth. The key is that we have to have balanced growth. But growing our commercial areas are not necessarily what allows you to be as a community financially stable. And our budgets and our financials have proven that we can indeed be sustainable and that we'll continue to be. When you look at that $7.8 million of fund balance, this year alone, we're able to pull several of those millions of dollars out because we are so fully funded. And we're able to put those dollars towards additional fire and police, put those dollars towards additional paving of our roadways, put those dollars towards additional parkland. And so the sustainability is not just are we sustainable, but can we also provide increased services to our citizens? And the answer is a resounding yes. And I'm extremely thrilled to be able to say that I've been part of that process, part of that fiscal responsibility, part of ensuring our rural community remains rural for the last 2 decades.
Okay. Traffic is widely regarded to be a problem in Milton. Speed is only one aspect of this problem. What steps has the city already taken that you think are helpful, and what more do you think should be done to control traffic within the city?
Traffic is indeed a problem. Traffic is going to continue to be a problem of any growing community, and as we know from our growth figures, we're growing and we're going to continue to grow. And additionally, the adjacent communities surrounding the city of Milton, of course, have growth patterns that impact us as well. We have done a tremendous amount, I've done a tremendous amount to help mitigate traffic and to help put in place some transportation plans that will help to provide calming methodologies for our citizens. Let me just give you a few examples. We recently put in place the Transportation Master Plan. That Transportation Master Plan really works to keep so much of the traffic at our periphery. We are supporting the expansion of 140. We're doing that in concert with the City of Roswell, with the City of Alpharetta, and in so doing, as well as with Cherokee and with other surrounding communities. In doing that, we now have allowed 140 and the widening of 140 to remain on the Georgia DOT list of projects to be pursued. And what that means is that by allowing that to remain on the external portions of our community, is that we're going to have another mechanism going north to south to allow traffic to go north to south as opposed to going west to east. And so that keeps some of the traffic on the periphery. The same is true when you look at other projects within that transportation plan, including Highway 9. We have a Livable Communities initiative that I helped to initiate along with our staff and with other council members, and we have now been granted that through the Atlanta Region Commission, and in so doing we're undertaking a study of the Highway 9 area, which includes transportation improvements. Those improvements will continue, and again, it keeps a lot of the traffic at the periphery, but it also keeps it in concert with 400 and possible exchanges in the future. If you look at internal mechanisms in terms of transportation master planning, just this week, Tuesday night, I was the only council member and the only one running for office that was actually at that transportation meeting, and it was a crabapple transportation meeting that has to do with what are we going to do in the immediate with regards to crabapple. Both through the crabapple visioning study as well as the transportation master plan, there are plans. We have phases 1, 2, 3, and 4, with 1 or 2 obviously being those that we're looking to fund in the immediate. One of which would provide a roundabout in Crabapple heading south on Birmingham Highway, another that would be on Crabapple Road. And the point of that is you would effectively have a bypass of sorts that would allow the internal portions of Crabapple to be more pedestrian friendly, but it would allow for a continuum of traffic and movement, but to do that on the external portions of Crabapple. So that's just another example of what I have personally been involved with, what I'll continue to be involved with. Additionally, if you look at additional connectivity, 2 weeks ago, we put an additional ordinance in place that modified how to handle abandonment and privatization of roadways. What that does is it allows certain communities that have been pursuing potential applications to take that to their community and to look at what things they can do for transportation, whether that's to gate their community, whether that's to keep that community open, whether it's to bring in safety bumps, for lessening of speedways through subdivisions. So there's a myriad of things that I've personally been involved with very recently that will help to deal with transportation and the mitigation of traffic. Another example is that I've been a proponent of reducing speeds on our roadways. If you were to go back in time, long before we became a city, I pursued with the Georgia Department of Transportation and Fulton County the option of being able to reduce speeds on our roadways. Now, we have to be careful because some of our roadways are state highways, and the state highways are not always necessarily receptive to reducing speeds. In some part, that has to do with how you can use radar to enforce speeds, and so we have to always balance the roadway with the network of our roadways along with enforcement, and so there's a balancing act there. And so it's not as easy as saying one roadway is going to be reduced, but I was a proponent of reducing speedways on some of our roads going back about 15 years. Again, it's evidence that my 2 decades worth of activity is not something that I decided to get involved with yesterday, but instead over 20 years ago. And transportation has been and will continue to be a key issue that we need to deal with. So to recap, 140 is being looked at for widening. We've got transportation processes in place for Highway 9. We're working on things within Crabapple. We also have the intersection of Francis and Cogburn, and we're funding a roundabout for that, and we've used part of that $7.8 million of federal funds, fund balance to be able to help fund that in the near term as opposed to having to wait. Other intersections that have full funding from us as council include Birmingham and Providence. It includes Arnold Mill and Providence. And those are fully funded transportation improvements that are not going to be happening in years to come, but are underway now. We are currently pursuing those, and those will be for our citizens in place sooner, not later. And hopefully you've also noticed that we've been repaving our roadways. We're also maintaining our gravel roads. Those are all things that are critical to a transportation master plan that I helped to put in place, that I voted for, that helped to really bring some solutions to our citizens. And those will be things that we continue to evaluate on a monthly and annual basis.
Okay. Very shortly, the City Council will be naming a charter commission to evaluate the current state of the city against its charter, which was enacted 5 years ago at the time of the city's creation. If you were able to change just one thing about the city's charter, what would that change be, and what do you believe would be the impact of that change?
A city charter, especially when a city is starting out, really helps to define the community that we're going to be. It helps to define how we will be governed and how our citizens will be governed. I'm a big believer that we need less government, not more. And so I do believe that our charter puts that in motion. And so there are some tremendous things within our existing charter that I think we really need to applaud, including the fact that we have a strong city manager form of government, that we have checks and balances in place, that we of course can provide and need to provide as part of being an incorporated community, that we had to provide particular basic services, obviously public safety being critical as a component of that. Within our charter, it also gave us the opportunity to pursue different ways of delivering services. And so to your question as to what would I change, I'd like to think that I've actually already put forward the change that was needed the most. And that change was the ability to move away from CH2M Hill, which was a terrific opportunity in our first year. But I was a huge proponent that after the second year and looking at those finances, we really needed to move away from that public-private partnership. And our charter allowed us the flexibility to either, one, have a private-public partnership, or to be able to take some of those services back in-house and to provide those services at a much more effective and efficient cost. The result of my direction and the result of my involvement in that is that we effectively saved $1.5 to $2 million that began as soon as we eliminated that contract. It's been a successful transition, and so not only have we been able to deliver more efficient services, we've also now been able to take in and keep more dollars of our citizens to the tune of $1.5 to $2 million annually. And again, that's something that was available to us in the charter, but it was up to us, it was up to leadership from folks like myself to pursue that. We did pursue it, and we were successful, and it's allowed our financial position to be that much stronger. And we are in an amazing financial position right now, in large part because of the change that I helped to enact through our charter and through the flexibility that that charter provided. So in the immediate, I'd say, I think we're in a good place with our charter, and I'm pleased to say that our charter gave us the flexibility, along with leadership from myself, to be able to say, what can we do differently? And then to enact that change, which was a change that we did enact with the removal of CH2M Hill after we had established the city in that first year and a half.
Okay.